Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Prabhu, I want to say something about the babies. I was just playing with them. So you're gone, they're also going to be visiting. So she said, no, they cannot go. So she tied them up with some string.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
That I would not take it out.
Yeah. She also wanted to really make it. But yeah, I know that was part of the other part was that she doesn't want, she likes doing that service every ISKCON. And another small little inside thing is, if you notice the earrings on Nityananda, the big round, sort of yellow, and she just found out about butterscotch. She didn't know about butterscotch, and
there's no butterscotch in Russia.
There's no butterscotch in Russia. And so she made the earrings look like big butterscotch hard candies. It looks really nice. So
they have a personal DJs?
No, they're over there.
Oh.
The temple deities. The temple deities.
Mine's for you can keep
Yeah.
And she dresses them every day?
Every ISKCON.
Every ISKCON.
And she bathed them. Gopi, Chandan, lemon juice. She's
born devotee.
Yeah.
Very special girl.
Yeah, she did it for our deities too. You know, in our place, she did the help coming with that. Okay, so Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Deving Saraswatim Vyasam.
Deving Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudiriye.
Tato Jayamudiriye.
Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master and founder Acharya. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pracharane Nivesesha Sunnivari Paskata. So we're in chapter 2 of the second canto, and it's, I think, verse 28. And the title is it called, is The Lord in the Horn? That's right. So, let's see. Okay. So, Tato Vishesham Pratipada Nirvayas Tato Vishesham Pratipada Nirvayas Tato Vishesham Pratipada Nirvayas Tenatmana Napo Nala Murti Atvaran Tenatmanapu Nala Murti Atvaram Tenatmanapu Nala Murti Atvaram Jyotirmayo Vayum Upecha Kale Jyotirmayo Vayum Upecha Kale Vayu Atmana Kam Brihad Atma Lingam Vayu Atmana Kam Brihad Atma Lingam Tato Vishesham Pratipadya Nirvayas Tenatmanapo Nalamurti Atvaram Jyotirmayo Vayam Upechakale Vayuvatmanakam Briharatma Nilingam Tato Vishesham Pratipadjane Vayas Enatmanapo Nalamurti Atvaran Jyotirmayo Vayam Upechakale Vayuvatmanakam Briharatma Lingam Tato Vishesham Pratipadjane Vayas Tenatmanapo Nalamurti Atvaram Jyotirmayo Vayam Upechakale Vayuvatmanakam Briharatmalingam. Anyone else? Tato Vishesham Pratipajane Vayas Tenatmanapo Nalamurti Atvaram Jyotirmayo Vayam Upechakale Vayuvatmanakam Briharatmalingam
Tato Vishesham Pratipajane Vayas Tenatmanapo Nalamurti Atvaram
Jyotirmayo Vayam Upechakale Vayuvatmanakam Briharatmalingam. Anyone else? Ladies?
Tato Vishesham Pratipajane Vayas
Tato Vishesho
Tenatmanapo Nalamurti Atvaram
Tenatmanapo Nalamurti Atvaram
Jyotirmayo Vayam Upechakale
Jyotirmayo Vayam Upechakale Vayuvatmanakam Briharatmalingam
Tato Vishesham Pratipajane Vayas
Tato Vishesham Pratipajane Vayas
Tenatmanapo Nalamurti Atvaram
Tenatmanapo Nalamurti Atvaram Jyotirmayo Vayam Upechakale Vayuvatmanakam Briharatmalingam. So, okay, I'll do word for word. Tata, thereafter. Vishesham, particularly. Pratipadja, by obtaining. Nirbhaya, without any doubt. Tena, by that. Atmana, pure self. Apa, water. Anala, fire. Murti, forms. Atvaran, by suppressing. Jyoti Maya, effulgent. Vayam, atmosphere. Upeja, having reached there. Kale, in due course of time. Vayu, air. Atmana, by the self. Kam, ethereal. Brihat, great. Atmalingam, the real form of the self. So I'll read the translation and we'll read it. After reaching Satyaloka, the devotee is specifically able to be incorporated fearlessly by the subtle body in an identity similar to that of the gross body. And one after another, he gradually attains the stages of existence from earthly to watery, fiery, glowing, and airy, until he reaches the ethereal stage. So please repeat. After reaching Satyaloka, the devotee is specifically able to be incorporated fearlessly. I didn't know where to break it. So, by the subtle body. In an identity. Similar to that of the gross body. And one after another. He gradually attains stages of existence. From earthly to watery, fiery, glowing, and airy, until he reaches the ethereal stage. So repeat it. After reaching Satyaloka, the devotee is the devotee is specifically able to be incorporated fearlessly by the subtle body in an identity similar to that of the gross body. And one after another, he gradually attains stages of existence from earthy to watery, fiery, glowing, and airy, until he reaches the ethereal stage. So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Anyone who reaches Brahmaloka or Satyaloka by dint of spiritual perfection and practice, is qualified to attain 3 different types of perfection. One who has attained a specific planet by dint of pious activities attains places in terms of his cooperative or comparative pious activities. I'll read it again. One who has attained a specific planet by dint of pious activities attains places in terms of his comparative pious activities. One who has attained the place by dint of Virat or Hiranyagarbha worship is liberated along with the liberation of Brahma. But one who attains the place by dint of devotional service is specifically mentioned here in relation to how he can penetrate into the different coverings of the universe and thus ultimately disclose his spiritual identity in the absolute atmosphere of supreme existence. It's a really intense purport. The whole purport, but that paragraph is intense. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, all the universes are clustered together up and down, and each and every one of them is separately 7-fold covered. The watery portion is beyond the 7-fold coverings, and each covering is 10 times more expansive than the previous covering. The personality of Godhead who creates all such universes by his breathing period lies above the cluster of the universes. The water of the causal ocean is differently situated from the covering. From the covering water. Where did I lost my spot? The water of the causal ocean is differently situated than the covering water of the universe. The water that serves as covering for the universe is material, whereas the water of the causal ocean is spiritual. As such, the watery covering mentioned herein is considered to be the false egotistic covering of all living entities. And the gradual process of liberation from the material coverings, one after another, as mentioned herein, is the gradual process of being liberated from false egotistic conceptions of the material gross body, and then being absorbed in the identification of the subtle body till the attainment of the pure spiritual body in the absolute realm of the kingdom of God. Whoa. Srila Sridhar Swami confirms that a part of the material nature, after being initiated by the Lord, is known as the Mahatattva. A fractional portion of the Mahatattva is called the false ego. A portion of the ego is the vibration of sound, and a portion of sound is atmospheric air. A portion of the airy atmosphere is turned into forms, and the forms constitute the power of electricity or heat. Heat produces the smell of the aroma of the earth, and the gross earth is produced by such aroma. All these combined together constitute the cosmic phenomena. The extent of the cosmic phenomena is calculated to be diametrically, in parentheses it says both ways, 4 billion miles. In other words, 4 billion miles this way, 4 billion miles that way. It's equal on each side, so it's 8 billion miles. Then the coverings of the universe begin. The first stratum is the covering of the covering is calculated to extend 80 million miles. And the subsequent coverings of the universe are respectively of fire, effulgence, air, and ether, one after another, each extending 10 times further than the previous. The fearless devotee of the Lord penetrates each one of them and ultimately reaches the absolute atmosphere where everything is of one and the same spiritual identity. Then the devotee enters one of the Vaikuntha planets where he assumes exactly the same form as the Lord and engages in the loving transcendental service of the Lord. That is the highest perfection of devotional life. Beyond this, there is nothing to be desired or achieved by the perfect yogi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You know, just briefly mention one thing is that one devotee once, I don't know how to say his name right now, but he had the idea to make a model of the universe with the 10 coverings. And he would do the first inch, the first covering would be 1 inch. And then 10 times that, 10 times that, 10 times that. By the end, the calculation would be that the last covering would be 1 mile long.
Oh.
So the building itself would have to be, like 1.5 miles, 2 miles. So you could walk around and have a little cafeteria, a little bathroom or something, so you could observe it. That's what we're dealing with here. So this is the kind of information that it's very lofty, and my understanding is very limited, really. But I do have some things I'd like to refer, because it's very nice, but I don't know how much time we have left. But it's a real in-depth discussion, because, what time does that say? 10 after or quarter after?
Quarter after.
Okay, so there's a real nice description of Prithu Maharaj's leaving the material world and how he amalgamates all the senses one after another into each other. Basically what's being said here is that after we eliminate the gross coverings, then you get a subtle form that appears just like the gross covering, but then you begin to amalgamate that into the Mahatattva. And each aspect of the Mahatattva is an aspect of your false ego. In other words, we have a false identification with the material coverings, and so each covering we identify with, and so like say the sound of your voice, or different aspects of our material identity. So when the earthy part of your covering, then that false ego falls away. Each one is a false ego, the mind and the intelligence of the final ones. And so what's described here in Prithu Maharaj is how he achieved perfection by this process. And this is not a process that we personally are going to be engaged in. We're engaged in something different. But, it's like I actually heard one devotee, right before he left his body, this was a long time ago, about over 20 years ago, And he was saying, don't read Prabhupada's books just to get knowledge. Read them for knowledge. Read them for the association. Because the Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in sound vibration. And we also get to associate with Srila Prabhupada and Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Brikit, Maitreya, Vidura, all the individuals who are speaking in the Srimad Bhagavatam through sound vibration. Prabhupada said, these purports are his emotional ecstasies. So we're associating with transcendentally pure personalities. By that association, we become purified. We may not understand, like Prabhupada often gave the example, the Hare Krishna mantra is Krishna. And he would give the example of when you go to see a doctor, and a doctor prescribes a medication. Let's just say it's aspirin, because you have a headache. And so, we may not understand the chemical reactions that happen within the body that causes the release of the headache. But we have faith in the doctor. If I take the medicine under his directions, I will gradually become free of this inconvenience, this pain. And in some cases, they actually can heal you, but that's another discussion. So similarly, we may not understand how it is, the sound vibration, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is God. But we have faith in the previous acharyas, and we've had direct experience in our own lives that we've been chanting now, for a year, 10 years, whatever, a couple of decades. We all have been chanting, and you can't stop chanting. And so that there's something to it. We wouldn't be doing it otherwise. You couldn't just be saying, George Harrison, George Harrison, Harrison Harrison, George, or Tulsi Gabbard, Tulsi Gabbard, Tulsi. I mean, maybe Tulsi, but not the Gabbard part. The sound vibration of Krishna. I heard, what's the devotee's name? Is it Drumilla or Grumilla? Drew Miller. He was telling some story, the Sankirtan story. They have Sankirtan stories now also on the memory series. This was a very interesting one. It was one of his first times going door to door in Los Angeles. I think he was dressed up like Santa Claus or something. And he's knocking on the door, and then all of a sudden he hears the scampering of like a little dog running on the floor. You can hear it running. And then he hears the voice of a little girl saying, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna stay, Krishna stay. And then she opens the door and he goes, what did you just say, little girl? She goes, Krishna. What is that? She says, I don't know, but I just love the sound. So I decided to call my dog Krishna.
Oh my gosh.
She's going all day long, and she's calling her dog, Krishna! Krishna! It's like the Ajamil and Narayan story. She didn't even know anything about the Hare Krishnas. So we don't know how these things are affecting us. Like I had an experience reading meters. It was Lord Nityananda's appearance day, and this dog started coming at me, intense. And all that day I was going, Nityananda, Nityananda. And so I saw him and I just started going, Nityananda, Nityananda. And he stopped in his tracks. And I didn't know that the owner was watching this whole thing. And she said, what were you saying? I said, I used to be a dog trainer. And so there's certain sounds, sometimes people use German, and this is an ancient Indian incantation, Nityananda. Like American, she thought American Indian, I'm thinking something else. But anyway, she wanted to know. She said, this dog is so bad, I can't get him. And he was coming at you like that. I thought for sure I was going to have a problem. That's why I was running out. Why? He stopped because well, this is a very effective sound. And she said, how do you say it? Nityananda. So I taught her how to say Nityananda. So now she was going to be saying that. So these things, we don't know how it's working. Anyway, and basically I'm trying to explain how we may not understand all of what we read in the Bhagavatam when it gets to these descriptions of what's happening in terms of the coverings of the soul and how it's unraveling. And this is a process that's for other yugas. And if you notice, it said that the soul will reach the Vaikuntha planets. But our destination, Prabhupada said, for the followers of Lord Chaitanya, we're going to Goloka. I mean, Gokula initially, but we may have to make a few other stops in between. I'm sure I will. But so, I'm going to read a little bit from Maharaj Prithu, the end of his life. It may help in some of these understandings. And actually some of the purports, if I had more time, I would like to read some of the parts of the purports. Because it gives it a much more, Prabhupada can explain this much better than I can. And in this particular section of the Bhagavatam, and if you really want to do yourself a favor and understand what we're reading right now, you should read the Maharaj Prithu Going Back to Home, the last chapter. Because it'll give a lot of more in-depth explanation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So Maharaj Prithu thus engaged completely in devotional service, executing the rules and regulations strictly according to principles, 24 hours daily. Thus his love and devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, developed and became unflinching and fixed. I mean, he went off to practice austerities after being the king of the world. He is the administrative energy of the Lord. He's the Shaktaveshavatar. And he's the first king or ruler to create city planning. Up to that time, people would just haphazardly, a village here, a road there, whatever. He had city planning. It's an incredible pastime. So when he was in the forest, he was just sometimes he was just eating leaves, but not leaves from the tree. He would eat leaves that had fallen from the tree because he didn't want to disturb the tree or any other living entity that might need those leaves. He ate the leaves that were already on the ground. So that is Krishna provided, without any salt or sugar, just ate them. And also because he didn't want any taste. He didn't want any sensual or sensuous enjoyment, sense gratification. And then sometimes he was just drinking small amounts of water, and then gradually he was just breathing for maintenance, a few breaths per day.
What address is this from?
What address? It's 31492 Anna Road. No, address. It's this is the 4th canto, chapter 23, and it's called Maharaj Prithu Going Back Home. And I'm starting around verse 10 or 11. By regularly discharging devotional service, Prithu Maharaj became transcendental in mind and could therefore constantly think of the lotus feet of the Lord. Because of this, he became completely detached and attained perfect knowledge by which he could transcend all doubt. Thus he was freed from the clutches of false ego and the material conception of life. See, it says of doubt. Doubt breeds fear. And in this verse we read today, fearlessly they were situated in such a loka. And there's some very interesting parts of this purport. At present, we have contacted the material body, material mind, and material intelligence. But when we become free from these material conditions, our spiritual body, spiritual mind, spiritual intelligence become manifest. I was thinking of a good example. I was trying to think of an example on this whole idea of undressing ourselves from material energy. And if you think about, like, when people have to go into like say nuclear reactors or some other place with, like, there's a train crash and there's some poisonous, hazardous materials, they wear these hazmat suits. And when they put on these hazmat suits, when they work in there, and then when they come out, they slowly take all the layers off, and then they wash down, cleanse. and so that the soul is, or the person is completely cleansed of the poisonous, contaminated atmosphere. And that's what we're going to go through. We're going through this gradually, being
contaminated.
detoxed. Yeah, detoxed. Yeah, yeah. We're all toxic.
Contaminated.
Yeah. So it says, in that transcendental state, at least I am, I know that. In that transcendental state, a devotee attains all the benefits of karma, jnana, and yoga. And this was discussed in the previous. You automatically, a pure devotee, all the results, all the pious activities of karma, wealth or the mystic powers, and they come and serve him like maidservants. But he's not interested in any of that. He doesn't care because it's all part of this illusory world. It's time now, there's nothing here that's attractive. And believe me, the heavenly planets, from all what we've seen, so the descriptions we've read, it is quite extraordinary. And it would be very difficult to go through that and not say, hey, maybe I should just hang around for a couple of trillion years here, a billion years. No, why not? It's pious. So, no, it's not going to give us pleasure. In the spiritual world, there's a book out, I heard, I don't know, it was maybe a few years back, Happy for No Reason. Something like that. And sometimes you may experience things like that. There's no reason why. You just causelessly wake up and you feel happy, or miserable, causelessly. But in the spiritual world, we're constantly happier. We're causelessly happy. Happy for no reason at all. Blissful for no reason. The reason is because we're surcharged in the transcendental loving rasas of Krishna in our constitutional position. We actually have a service to perform to one of his servants, who serves another servant, who serves another servant. And in this way, we experience this, just like this whole river of thick honey, nectar. And it just becomes increasingly more and more beautiful. Everyone, everything is beautiful. And there's no fear, there's no anxiety, there's no end. Happy for no reason. So then, like there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, it's 14:26, Mang Chayo Vyapachurena, Bhakti Yogena Sevati, Saguna Samati Chaitam, Brahma Bhuyaya Kapote. So that when one is engaged in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. And here, in the purport, Prabhupada says, by regular discharge of devotional service, a devotee attains transcendental stage of life. This is a science that Prabhupada has tailored for us in this culture. And Prabhupada, when he first came here and started this movement, he was a 70-year-old man. And his first followers were the average age between 18 and 25, and they were like hippies. So he knew how to tailor it for this situation. Now there may be some little squeaks and adjustments here and there, nothing major, but we have a prescription from the parampara, from a bona fide acharya, an empowered acharya, and we have many of his followers who are very solidly attached to his instructions, and they've been empowered by him to preach on his behalf. We have no reason not to apply ourselves to the process. Someone may say, "Oh, well, why should I do it? And this one's not doing that, and that one's not doing this, and blah blah blah." Well, why did you get sick? Well, I saw everybody else was eating unhealthy, so I might as well. Or I saw everyone else wasn't doing this cleaning, so why should I? No, that's not an excuse. We know what our duties are. We know, and it's to our benefit. It's our benefit to practice the process laid out by the founder of Charter and is being enforced by his followers. The gurus, the GBCs, the temple presidents. It's to our benefit. Of course, everyone has, certain limitations, especially as you get older, or even when you're young and you have some health issues and so on. But to the best of your ability, to practice this process, because you only get benefit. There's no downsides. There's no exploitation here. None. So as far as the process goes. So I just want to read some more of these, because there's some really great, these purports are fantastic. But I should read, and it explains more about the coverings, but I want to read some of these last few verses here. When he became completely free from the conception of bodily life, Maharaj Prithu realized Lord Krishna sitting in everyone's heart as the Paramatma. Being thus able to get all instructions from him, he gave up all other practices of yoga and jnana. He was not even interested in the perfection of the yoga and jnana systems, for he thoroughly realized that devotional service to Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and that unless the yogis and jnanis became attracted to Krishna Katha, narrations about Krishna, their illusions concerning existence can never be dispelled. So here he is, probably in the Satya Yuga, maybe the Treta Yuga, in that time it's like Ashtanga Yoga, kind of meditation and so on. And he's realizing the ultimate is Krishna Katha, narrations about Krishna and chanting his holy name. In due course of time, when Prithu Maharaj was to give up his body, he fixed his mind firmly upon the lotus feet of Krishna, and thus completely situated on the Brahmabhuta platform, he gave up the material body. When Maharaj Prithu practiced a particular yoga sitting posture, and there's a name for it. Can't see it right now. Anyway, it's called the Mukti Asana. He blocked the doors of his anus with his ankles, pressed his right and left calves, and gradually raised his life air upward, passing it onto the circle of his navel, up to his heart and throat, and finally pushed it upward to the central position between his two eyebrows. And then from there, it would go out this way. So he's this is the process that we don't have to practice. This is the controlling all the demands of your, trying to get the life force to go up this way, not out there, here, or here. Out there. In this way, Prithu Maharaj gradually raised his air of life up to the hole in his skull, whereupon he lost all desire for material existence. Gradually, he merged his air of life with the totality of air, his body with the totality of earth, and the fire within his body with the totality of fire. In one of the purports it mentions that the fire of digestion, that's the fire within us. In this way, according to the different positions of the various parts of the body, Maharaj Prithu merged the holes of his senses with the sky, his bodily liquids, such as blood and various secretions, with the totality of water. He merged earth with water, then water with fire, fire with air, air with sky, and so on. He amalgamated the mind with the senses and the senses with the sense objects, according to their respective positions. And he also amalgamated the material ego with the total material ego, Mahatava. The purport Prabhu says, when the mind is completely washed of all material contaminations, the pure consciousness acts. The sound vibration from the spiritual sky can automatically cleanse all material contaminations, as confirmed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaito Darpana Mahaprabhu. We need only take the advice of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's a good place to sum it up. And there's a few more verses that goes on like that, but it's already probably 8:30. So anyone have anything they'd like to add or subtract or multiply or divide? Yes, Colleen was first.
This is really probably a stupid question, but getting rid of all of these layers, can you do that here? Or like, all the different...
Yeah, this is a description of people who are practicing this type of yoga, and that it's a very mechanical, technical process. And in our age, this takes the ability to. First of all, you have to have a very long lifespan. You have in this age, Kali Yuga, we don't have such good minds or memory. We can't control our minds. We're very unfortunate. We are very short-lived. So this is not a process that's recommended for us, but it's giving us an understanding of, and an appreciation for the process that we have, which means our process is, because even Prithu is saying, the ultimate thing is not what I'm doing, this breath control, and this severe meditation. It also says here that he, in the winter, stood up to his neck in icy cold water. And then in the summertime, he was surrounded by 5 fires. Above was the sun. And this was to become completely detached from the material pleasure, thinking there's any material pleasure here. And like I said, he was eating leaves that had fallen from the trees.
And this is going through all the different layers.
Yeah. So the yoga, you have to control your mind and go through this, merging all of these different coverings into the Mahatattva. And for us, this isn't what we're doing. Is we have to remember Krishna at the time of death. That's what we have to do. That's my understanding. That's what I said, I'm in over my head here. This is beyond my pay grade. I don't really understand what I'm saying. I mean, I do and I don't. I mean, really, I don't understand all these things about how you merge the earth from your body into the fire, and the fire into the water, and the water. I don't know how that's all happening. And I don't. It's not really something that Prabhupada stressed for us, but it's there in the Bhagavatam. So my point, what I said earlier, is we're reading for the association of the great souls to hear these things and get an appreciation for what we have. And we're getting purified by hearing these things. So obviously...
I don't have to run.
Okay, sorry. Anyone else? Yes.
It seems like, well, it's not so clear here, but like when Yudhisthira went through this process, then he was still in his body, but it seemed like in Yudhisthira's case, at least it was a mental.
Well, it says here that when you eliminate all the external coverings, then you get a subtle form.
On Earth, when Mount Yudhisthira went through a similar series, and he's still in his body, walking around like an urchin, and then he goes up to the mountains and leaves his body. So I don't know if it's describing your mental attitude about these things, or if it's describing if actually you're shedding stuff out of your form.
No, you're eliminating the coverings of your material covering, the false ego. You're eliminating that, and you're getting a more refined, subtle body, and ultimately you'll get the pure soul. And with Yudhisthira's case, I don't remember reading whether it says that plane that came took him to Vaikuntha or not. I mean, also stages where you go to higher realms where you get qualified to live in such a loka, like that. And that's a subtle, still it's material, but it's a very subtle form, but it's a form. And that subtle form is more substantial than this gross form. It's stronger. It's not, weak. The subtle form is a much stronger, because doesn't experience disease, doesn't experience the anxieties, it doesn't experience old age like this. Yes, it's very interesting. And the more you beat these pastimes, the more you'll get by super soul. If you're chanting around, listening and reading, gradually all of a sudden certain things will as needed. You know, it's not like we have to become a PhD, all of us. But we get the realizations that we need for our service. That's what so we shouldn't feel intimidated by reading these things, or that they don't understand every aspect of it and the technicalities of it. There are people in our movement that do, and can present it much better than I can. But I'm being honest with you. I'm not trying to pretend to be something I'm not. I have an appreciation for it, and I've read this story of Prita Maharaj many times. Because after this, if you've read the whole pastime, there's all kinds of benedictions. And one of the really interesting benedictions, and I'll take the time to find it, but it mentions if you're a Brahmin, you get all these Brahminical qualities. If you're a Kshatriya, you get all these qualities of a Kshatriya. A Vaishya, you get cows and wealth and land. And if you're a Sudra, you become a perfect devotee. The Sudra, the servant, is in the best position. So it's really, anyway, I hope I didn't, did I say something? She just had to go.
She had to go.
Okay. So, anyway, thank you very much, and all glories to Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you very much.